Dallas. App. Crews arranged by Dallas officials have removed a statue of Robert E. Lee from a pedestal in a park named for the Confederate General. Dallas officials brought in crews to remove the historical statue of Confederate General Robert E. Lee from a public park. Dallas officials quietly removed the statue from a park bearing Lee's name. Dallas. App. Crews have removed a statue of Robert E. Lee from a pedestal and carted it away from a Dallas park named for the Confederate General. Dallas removed a statue of Confederate General Robert E. Lee from a park on Thursday, after the city council voted to bring down. Crews arranged by Dallas officials removed a statue of Robert E. Lee from a pedestal Thursday and carted it away from a park named for the Confederate General. And crews have removed the statue of Confederate General Robert E. Lee from Lee Park in Dallas. But once he learned it was a likeness of the Confederate General, he wanted to see it removed. To remove the Robert E. Lee statue at Robert E. Lee Park in Dallas. Dallas crews arranged by Dallas officials removed a statue of Robert E. Lee from a pedestal Thursday and carted it away from a park named for the Confederate General. Dallas crews arranged by Dallas officials removed a statue of Robert E. Lee from a pedestal Thursday and carted it away from a park named for the city of Dallas voted Wednesday to immediately remove a statue of Gen. Robert E. Lee from a public park, but the work was abruptly stopped by a federal, while cranes and work crews prepared to remove a statue of Robert E. Lee from a public park on Dallas. Removed a statue of Gen. Robert E. Lee early. Dallas crews arranged by Dallas officials removed a statue of Robert E. Lee from a pedestal Thursday and carted it away from a park named for the overnight. Dallas police officers were seen guarding the statue of Confederate General Robert E. Lee at Lee Park in Oak Lawn. Published Thursday, Sept 7. A temporary restraining order Wednesday spared a statue of Confederate General Robert E. Lee from being taken down just hours after the Dallas City. Someone vandalized the statue of Confederate Gen. Robert E. Lee in an oak, a Confederate statue and a nation divided. Dallas. Lee Park. For Dallas to remove its image, one of 34 workers prepare for the removal of a statue of Robert E. Lee at a public park in Dallas. Thursday, Sept 14, 2017. Workers prepare for the last-minute court order has blocked the removal of the statue of Confederate Gen. Robert E. Lee from a park in Dallas even as work crews were prepared to take it. Crews have removed a statue of Robert E. Lee from a pedestal and carted it away from a Dallas park named for the Confederate General. In an unannounced but Dallas app, officials in Dallas have voted to remove a statue of Confederate Gen. Robert E. Lee and work crews within hours began the task of taking down the city council members have voted to remove a monument to Confederate General Robert E. Lee from a park in Dallas. A crane said to aid in the removal of a controversial Texas statue of Robert E. Lee collided with a semi-trailer Sunday night, killing the driver of a pedestal wrapped in plastic that had held a statue of Confederate Gen. Robert E. Lee, which was removed from the University of Texas campus early Monday morning but that doesn't mean the current campaign to remove the Robert E. Lee Memorial statue in the kindly General Lee. Robert E. Lee Memorial Lee Park, Dallas Dallas, Texas a Confederate statue is coming down in another major southern city. A statue of Confederate Gen. Robert E. Lee is being removed from a last-minute court order blocks removal of Confederate Gen. Robert E. Lee statue from Dallas Park even as work crews were prepared to take it down. The city of Dallas can proceed again in taking down a statue of Gen. Robert E. Lee from a public park, the day after a federal judge halted the removal at An 81-year-old statue of Confederate General Robert E. Lee in Oak Lawn's Lee Park can now come down. In a hearing Thursday, U.S. District Judge Sidney Workers prepare for the removal of a statue of Confederate General Robert E. Lee at a public park in Dallas. The Dallas City Council voted to remove the statue. The statue of Confederate General Robert E. Lee at Lee Park in. Those were all removed, and seeing as how the Dallas statue of General Robert E. Lee was dedicated